I'm Pete Teti, and my sidekick here, Earl Capozzi. You all know him. And we're going to take you through a zero defects exercise, how to create a roadmap to get to zero defects. And it's a pretty good exercise. It's something we piloted in our last conference out in Trollhättan, Sweden. Went very, very well. And we think that you'll get a lot of value out of it. And so on the tables, there are some worksheets that were placed there. And you'll see one sheet has a list of key activities that are part of the zero defect APQP journey. We're going to try to figure out, it's like a puzzle that we're going to build through 3 phases. And you're the owner of a company, you've got an unhappy customer, and the metrics do not look very good. And what do we need to do to get started on the road to recovery and toward a culture of zero defects, kind of building off of the prior exercise. So those 2 worksheets are going to be very useful to you in this exercise. Also, there should be a facilitator at each table to help you along. But I think we could explain the exercise clearly enough that you'll have no problem executing it. So let's see here. Let's begin. Page down. So here's our aim, to create a roadmap describing how to achieve zero defects. So in the tables, the scenario data is in front of you. There's 3 phases, as I mentioned, and the key activities. So we're going to need for you to define what activities belong to each of the 3 phases. You'll see the metrics on those 3 phases. And it starts off really bad, and it's gradually getting better. And we want to tie that to the elements of APQP and what should be used, at the right time. And so we want you to identify a lead role for each activity, what deployment steps, and the phases are sequenced. So this is one of the worksheets that you'll see, and it has shown here a flow map that describes pretty much the exercise through the 3 phases that we're going to take you through. And then the worksheets are also here on that big worksheet that you have. So let's take a look at over here. We have the metrics from phase 1, 2, and 3. And you can see escapes, concessions, non-conforming reports. What else do we have here? Looks like we have scrap and rework, and ultimately the cost of non-quality. And you can see it starts off pretty high in phase 1, like 3.9 million. Also below that shows the titles, potential titles of each phase. Is it proactive? Is it preventive? Is it reactive? So when we go through phase 1, we want you to name that. Each phase needs to have a title. What's the appropriate title for phase 1? You'll need to decide that as a team. The key activities are listed below. And we'll see a little bit more of that in an upcoming slide. So again, a little bit bigger view here of the titles. Proactive is anything about creating or controlling a situation rather than just responding to it after it has happened. And then reactive, showing a response, as it shows here, to a stimulus, acting on the response to a situation. So as opposed to driving the actual activity based on a need to improve metrics, you're reacting to a situation, maybe an unhappy customer, might be a supplier reporting on a potential quality escape. Preventive gets more into what can you do in terms of a process where you're designing new product and it goes through that process and you prevent the prior defect causes from happening in the past. Preventive activities we talk a lot about in 8D, which is the D7 step. And what can we do to update our procedures, our design manual, so that we don't repeat the same issues we had on a prior escape? So think about prevention in that way. Not so much about the product that we're building right now, but what we could be building tomorrow. And so those are the three titles. You'll need to decide which phase they belong to. And then the key activities. So there's a lot of them. You're going to need to decide in the very first phase, what 5 would you pick to start addressing this big issue of 3.9 million cost of non-quality. You know, you're going to have to decide that. What's the appropriate thing to start prioritizing? And then you'll move into the second and third phase, doing basically the same thing, but again, things are getting a little bit different as we go from phase to phase. So look at the roles within each organization that needs to lead that particular activity. The very first phase, you're going to need to lay out 5 activities that you'll prioritize to help stop the bleeding. Well, what role would lead that particular element? Need to decide that. And then, which metric are we targeting? You have a whole series of metrics for each of the 3 phases. What activities you pick should be aligned to which metric you're trying to improve. So talk about that and decide what that will be. And then finally on the worksheet, and again this goes for each of the phases, you need to determine some deployment steps. How would you implement that particular activity? What would be the first thing you need to do to organize around it? So it could be creating a process within the QMS. It might be coming up with some training, developing a practitioner to help drive that particular element you've prioritized. It could be having a pilot rollout. So again, these are some of the possibilities for deployment steps. Finally, what support do you need from the customer? Okay, one of the things that we all get involved with at the OEMs is trying to help the suppliers where they need it. Maybe we can interface with engineering. Maybe we can, work on some type of plan with you, provide training, provide some type of support to help you be able to achieve your goal. And so never count that customer out, because they have just as big of an interest in trying to help the improvement process be driven. So phase 1, we'll start with this. We'll give you, I think, 25 minutes is for this. You work at XYZ company, and your customers have been impacted by quality issues and events, month after month. You can see the metrics. 200 escapes. Again, this is, of course, all whimsical. 1,000 concessions, 100 non-conforming reports, $200,000 in scrap, and look at the rework cost, $500,000 there. Total cost of non-quality of $3.9 million. So customers have been impacted. They're not happy. They're knocking on our door. They want to see what we can do to start turning things around. So the president of the company has come down and chartered your team to help pull together a recovery plan. And in order to do that, you're going to look at those list of 13 activities and pick the top 5 that your team thinks should be prioritized right now. They're all important, but certain ones are probably most appropriate right now to stop the bleeding. So in this phase, you're going to get 25 minutes. As I said, we'll identify 5 key activities, identify the lead role for each activity, the key deployment steps, and finally, the support required from the customer. Pick a leader to present, and we'll do a very quick outbrief of your team like we did. We won't be able to hit every table, but we'll try to hit tables that we did not see in the prior exercise. And again, share 2 key aspects as part of that outbrief. 2 key aspects of the conversation you had for this particular phase. And of course, what support you would need from the customer. So with that, any questions? Okay, why don't we get it rolling, and then Earl's going to come back afterwards and do the debrief and get us into phase 2. Was there a question? Okay, if not, I'm going to join my team, and we will see you in a few minutes. 25 minutes for this exercise, 10 minutes for the debrief.
We want to share 2 key aspects of your conversation, and then what kind of support you need from your customer. So if we want to, who wants to volunteer? Anyone?
My table's going to do it.
Oh, we are?
They got voluntold, I think. That never happens in quality, right? We don't get voluntold.
You got this. Go ahead. Stand up.
So, I don't want to stand up.
Okay.
What am I supposed to share?
You're sharing 2 key aspects of your conversation and the support you need from your customer.
So our conversation was heavily focused around identifying the problem areas within our company that is leading to all of these escapes and concessions and all that. And then identifying, doing some internal audits, and then action plans for how to alleviate any of those problems to help stop that bleeding. And then from our from our customers, we need, and I'm waiting for her to finish writing.
What was the title of your phase?
Reactive. Yeah, sorry. So we need more data from our customers, and for them to help us support a better problem definition for all the escapes and reworks and concessions.
Yep. Let's give him a hand.
Yep. Thank you. Being the brave first one. Anyone else?
There we go. So, will I pass you the mic? Or?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You were the note taker. Let me see your notes. Okay. That was a quick volunteer. I at least need forewarning for mine. All right, yep. So our first phase was also titled Reactive. So key activities, we had listed audits, problem solving, shop floor compliance, escape root cause prevention, and SPC. Some of the key deployment steps we discussed, if we're in this reactive stage, is, well, I cannot read your handwriting. So for like audits, we have to start with an audit plan for the year. We want to make sure that that's risk-based. So we should at this point be aware of what processes are at higher risk or we're having problems at. Make sure that we form an audit team that is cross-functional, and we of course have to make sure that audit team is trained. For problem solving,
Just need 2 aspects.
Okay, 2 aspects.
What you need from your customer.
Okay.
Apologies.
What we need from our customer during our discussion, so we've come to realize that there's a lot of training that goes along with these activities. And we have historically found that some of our customers do a really good job at putting on workshops for us. So increased frequency of those workshops that are focused on some of these topics like 8Ds, problem solving, any of those aspects that would help us bring the rest of our team up to speed.
So with that said, so you're aware, We do have a lot of webinars that the AESQ does, and you can see those on the AESQ webpage. So,
This is a good opportunity to have a quick discussion. You mentioned SPC, which is from the process control team lead here. Would absolutely love that. But if I'm the president and I need to know what you're going to do, the top 5 things so I could get product tomorrow, is that what I want to hear? That's the discussion. And there were a lot of great discussion points around various, not just that, but APQP. Is that what I want to hear? We're going to implement APQP? When I've got a customer beating down on me, I need to get product to? We're in a reactive mode. Everyone agreed with that. What do we do right now to stop the bleeding? So, yeah. So a lot of good I think the common things we've been hearing is what? What's number 1? Problem solving. 2, audit. 3, what's that? Well, we want to reduce escapes, but what are we doing to reduce the escapes? Right. We need to know whether or not we're following, our shop is compliant or not, right? So DPRV. Do we need to add a double DPRV, third-party over-inspection? What do we need to do to make sure good product starts coming through? Now we're going to start thinking about how do we take control of the process and what do we implement to start preventing defects. That'll be the next phase. So you guys really did a great job with that. Yep.
Let's hear from some more folks.
Okay, sure.
No, we're not behind. She wasn't going to forget about our group, so.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
So for our team, our key activities we looked at for the, let me make sure I read them correctly, the escape root cause prevention, problem solving, TPM, because if your machines are not functioning, you're going to have a ton of escapes. So that was one of the reductions for that one. 5S and shop floor compliance. Because if they're not understanding what they need to do, they're going to be doing everything wrong. And then, so how do we stop the bleeding? Make sure the operators and everyone on the shop floor knows what they're doing. And then understanding how you identify the problems. And when we talked about who leads that, it was, often you go into, oh, the process ME should manage that, or that's a quality function, which maybe one group might lead it, but it needs to be that leadership collaborative movement to move it into each area. And a lot of these focus around stopping your scrap and not your scrap, your scrap, but your escapes and your concessions at this point. And to deploy that, we would want the customer support, having them send their experts in and giving us advice on how to build those systems, have training, have leading by example, best practice, bringing the customer on site to help the people understand why and what. So that's what we did.
We got one more left.
thank you.
Thank you.
So we had a similar list to what other people have had, so shop floor compliance, problem solving, DPRV, escape root cause prevention, and focus part right first time. But in terms of the key deployment steps, we had go look C and Gemba, making sure we've defined the problem correctly, looking at records of percentage inspection, particularly in relation to DPRV. But the key point made right at the very end was making sure that we had a cross-functional team applied to the investigation process in those early stages. And I think in terms of what we needed from the customer, it probably centers around making sure that we've understood what the problem is, what the problem statement is about the concessions, the escapes, and that'll probably be the main area of focus.
Great.
Thank you.
Do we want to do one more or move on to the next? Move on. Melanie gave me the move on. So there isn't one right answer, right? So there's many methodologies and tools you can use. As a group, This is what we came up with as the best path forward for reactive, right? Reactive is you want to stop the bleeding. You want to get your customer the parts they need to continue to build engines, to continue to make sure there's no AOGs. So this is what we came up with as a group, right? One of them would be DPRV, right? Your self-release person, in many cases, is the only stopgap between you and the aircraft, right? A lot of us don't have receiving inspection anymore. So if you can put in a secondary over-inspect at that step, that would help ensure that product isn't going to make it out of your four walls to the customer, to us, or to the airframer. The other thing, audit. You can always apply audit as medicine, right? As a short-term stopgap to help with reactive situations. So there's many different types of audits, but you would apply them as necessary, right? Build a checklist and build those stopgaps to ensure that parts don't leave your four walls. The other thing is shop floor process compliance. Make sure people are following the work instructions and they're using the work instructions, and could tie into audit, develop checklists for your operators to use. I hate to say something's really important, but if you overemphasize something because it's causing you pain, then that can also ensure that you have stopgaps in place. Problem solving. The tools really do work. So if you apply the problem solving tools, you can develop a training based off of that, update skills matrix, make sure your folks have what they need, and then execute on-the-job training. We talked about delivery this morning. We always tend to hire a new employee, and it's kind of baptismal by fire. We just throw them out there, but make sure they're under the wing of a senior person to make sure they understand the job and what's being asked of them. And if you're that person, that new person, don't be afraid to raise your hand. A big part of AS 13100 is safety management system. There's going to be a table over there for human factors. It's that ability to raise your hand and say, hey, something's different here, right? And we need to have that ability to raise your hand and say, I just don't feel comfortable, or something's changed. And the last would be, and it doesn't have to be, but it would be, focus on parts right first time. What are you doing to ensure that the part is correct and you're not making more scrap and more undue burden on yourself with rework and other operations. So hopefully you found value. We're going to move on to the next phase. So in this phase, phase 2, your customer's a little more happy, they're more content, you're getting product out the door, but your leadership's not happy, right? You still have a lot of rework steps. Everybody's coming in on Saturday. You're still having those 4:30 events that everyone has to stay late for to figure out what are you going to do, how are you going to get parts to the customer. So what steps would you take to be more proactive so you can get out of this loop of kind of chasing your tail, right? So if you could take time, we'll do another 25 minutes and do the same exercise for this activity. And I kind of cheated a little. I told you what the answer was, whether it was, oh well. So it's a gift. So run with that and do the proactive steps to fix the stopgap. See, your customer's always here to help.
Time is up for phase 2. Who do we have to lead off?
I've got the leader.
He's excited. All right, we started out with the title is proactive. The key activities, we have approvals, SPC, TPM, 5S, and sub-tier management. Under who leads the activities in that order, for approvals, quality, for SPC, engineering, for TPM, maintenance, for 5S, we have the process owners, and sub-tier management, purchasing or sourcing. The metrics we use for approvals are accreditations through the different accreditation bodies, whether it's the quality system or NADCAP, and NADCAP includes merit status. And then, of course, customer approvals. For SPC, we have there your process control charts, CPKs, PPKs, charts, and full traceability of everything that goes through the shop. But this also gives you the opportunity for operator awareness as things are going through the shop. For maintenance, for metrics, we have PPMs completed, downtime, and unplanned downtime for metrics. For 5S, we have, for metrics, 0 injuries, reduced FOB escapes, and can't read my own writing.
Maybe.
Number of equipment handling and parts handling. And the last one, sub-tier management, obviously supplier rating, on-time delivery, quality, and supplier escapes.
Thank you. Maybe
Denny, we got one over here.
Thank you, Melanie. Our group, again, phase 2, proactive. The first one was audit. Quality leads that, and all of the metrics would be impacted, that being escapes, concessions, NCR, scrap, rework, CONQ. We'd be looking at all of that. The way to deploy that step would be a checklist, do some training, determine audit need criteria. Key activity number 2 is airproofing. That would be done by the mechanical engineer. Looking at repeat measurables. The key deployment steps would be, again, determine the errors that are needing some airproofing, design implementation, and the maintaining of that would occur. Then under the third key activity is 5S. The operations would lead that. All of the metrics, again, would be impacted. And we would be looking at determining 5S needs, scope to finish those needs, and then implement and maintain. Then we would have the fourth one as SPC, mechanical engineer, again. Looking at CPK, it would impact all of the measurables, and it would be the training, implement, maintaining. And then the last one was the TPM. Again, the facilities or maintenance would be the lead in the activity, and the measurables would be NCR, scrap, rework, and it would again be train, implement, and maintain.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any thoughts on what the customer can do to help?
does anybody?
I said, any thoughts on what the customer can do to help? No pressure.
In regards to being proactive,
Yes.
give us the requirements that are needed. There are times that we don't have all requirements, and so we're shooting from the hip, trying to meet their needs, and then hoping that it all sort of flushes out in the end and meets what they're looking for. So that might be one of the inputs.
Okay, very good.
For what we could use from the customer is real-time feedback. So sometimes we don't hear about an issue that we've delivered to the customer for many, many months or even a year after delivery. So late notice, we don't get to be as proactive.
Maybe a steady demand too.
Yeah.
Okay, ours was proactive also. A couple of our key points was airproofing also with audits, training, and some process control on that. Also the right the first time would be led by ops and leadership, which would reduce scrap and rework. And for our customer support required, and I kind of cheated and asked the question on that one because I didn't understand it, but shared best practices from the customer, that's what we would need from them, and any additional training or OFIs that they supplied or that they've already done. Sometimes customers worked out what we have a problem with and they could share that with us.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, one quick comment. Heard SPC a lot, and some of the actions around it, clearly, identification of key characteristics, or implementing the ones flowed down by the OEM. Those have to be captured on your process flow diagram, PFMEA, and control plan. Our process control methods team put together a trifold here. It has a lot of handy stuff in here that could be useful for an operator during the actual control of a process using SPC. And, you know, having basic understanding of patterns they ought to be looking out for, that's right on here. Some pretty good process capability hints are on here as well, and error-proofing examples and red flags to look out for in the typical type of high repetitive processes, complex instructions, look-alike parts. That's on here as well. So that last table over there to my left, there's 3 piles. I want to make sure they go down to 0. So feel free to grab 1 or 2 handouts before the end of the day. With that, we are now, this would be this is what we came up with for phase 2, not too different from what others have. Oh, and by the way, all these slides, I've been watching folks taking pictures, and that's good, but they're going to be posted on the AESQ website in the past events site on the AESQ website. So just to let you know, if you miss something, you have access to it. Approvals, error proofing, human factors, SPC, TPM, and 5S. Again, slight variations from table to table, but the core stuff is still there. So no need to go through that anymore. We're going to go into the 3rd phase, and happily, we see a lot of you already started that. So that's great. So now you've made a lot of great progress, and your metric scorecard, your control tower is looking a lot better for quality metrics. Even though 50 escapes, you know, in reality may not be a good number. This is a whimsical exercise. So we started with 200, we're down to 50. So let's put it in perspective there. But again, now we want to start really systematizing the improvements. How do we do that? By implementing a disciplined approach called Advanced Product Quality Planning, Zero Defects, what we've been talking about with all the reference manuals that we'll be getting into tomorrow for sure, starting at 8 a.m. or 8:30. What time do we start? I need to set
8
my
a.m.
alarm properly. Okay. So the president wants to ask for a plan to prevent. Think about that. Prevent what? Defects on what? Product we currently make, product we might, in-source, product we might haven't even designed yet. So think about what that word really means, prevent. And what are the top elements that could help us truly prevent and take the lessons learned from reactive and proactive and move into prevention. So I think it's a pretty much of a given what the title of this phase is going to be, given that the other 2 are already consumed. There's 1 left. So why don't we go ahead and what do we have for time? Okay, 25 minutes. Do we want to make an executive decision and cut that? 25? Can we go with 15? Okay, 15 minutes, because you guys are quick learners and you're getting it and you're already working on it. All right, have at it, 15 minutes, 25 of 3.
So does anyone want to share 2 key aspects?
Which one?
I don't know why they gave it to me. They act like I'm the one that talks all the time. All right, so this is a preventive phase 3. Of the 5, we chose SPC and APQP as 2 of them. One of the conversations that rolled up a lot with us was training and competency, making sure that we create and maintain a culture for these things, not just drill it into their heads, down their throats, whichever euphemism you want to use. And then the input that we would like to have from our customer revolves around availability of specifications and designs early, not when you need it tomorrow. So giving us advanced time to execute, and then once you've done so, allow us to have space for that growth and potential feedback.
Anything
Excellent.
the customer can do? That's it? Okay. So let you in on a secret too. If you use the SPC tools and you show you have a stable process, you're likely to get the drawing changed if you need a drawing change. If you can't show that you have stability and you're not using SPC, you're very unlikely. We're, in quality and procurement, it's the battle we can't fight. They're not going to, make changes and adjustments. The thing we love too is process control charts, run charts at the machine. Everyone gets scared of that, but technology is moving so fast. It's a lot easier to do that. CPK is nice, but it's still a tailgate. It's after the fact, right? So, no, good. Anyone else?
So the team, for phase 3, it's a preventative, and for the first one, we have ZD strategy, engagement, zero defects, who leads activity top management, key deployments, vision statement, and awareness throughout the company, and top management buy-in. For second one, APQP, this one was a little difficult because is it the deployment of APQP or is it the standardization of APQP within the procedures and the QMS? But we looked at it as executing, so that it's already been established. So the project managers who leads it, which metrics will activity target all, and then key deployment steps, training, I can't read my writing, create the team and the project plan, internal kickoff, external kickoff, so that's that one. And then SPC, statistical process control. And this is not utilizing the tool, but it's using it through the APQP methodology. So product KCs, then process KCs identified from design handoff, and then understanding which process needs to be identified for controlling those parameters. And then QA for who leads it, the metrics, all, and then the key deployments, identifying process KCs, collect data, report out, monitor. For the fourth one, focus part RFT, right first time. Who leads it? Manufacturing as responsible, but we also put quality as consulted, looking at the RACI, metrics all, and key deployment steps is process standardization, 5S, 5.0, and then production, make parts, and then consult quality when necessary. And then the fifth one, we had escape root cause prevention. As part of the problem solving, it's a step, but to identify your true root cause and have prevention in place and standardized through your control documents, and loop it back into your control plan and PFMEA, or maybe redesign. And then audit is the last one, and quality assurance, who leads it, metrics, all, and then have an audit schedule and also report out the completion status.
Thank you for sharing.
Great, thank you.
We got one more in the corner here.
One thing really quick too is tomorrow one of the first sessions we're going to do is with Carl Evans. He's going to go through APQP flight path and then may help answer some of your questions about APQP. So that should be a really great presentation tomorrow. No pressure, Carl.
Hello.
Hello.
So for phase 3, we came up with preventive, and the first key activity, we have APQP, led by quality, and the metrics that we, the target activity is all. And the key deployment steps we're planning with our customer input. And then the second key activity would be TPM, led by calibration and maintenance. The target would be all. key deployment tags or steps, quality and maintenance. The zero defects led by all. The metrics will activity target all, and key deployment steps would be production, our customer, and through quality. And the fourth one would be audit, led by quality, activity target all. Deployment steps would be quality develops planning for areas of weakness. And then 5 would be RFT, led by production and quality. Activity target would be all. Deployment steps would be all. And for key activity, in reality, all key activities are important for preventive, I believe, at least for us.
Yeah, great. Anything the customer can do?
We have customers all. They're pretty much involved in everything. If you want preventive, you can't have it without the customer being involved.
Yep.
That is a key point there. So for customer-specific requirements, getting the product KCs or CCs early so that we can, getting from the customer support required, so customer-specific requirements, getting the what's important in terms of the design, so product KCs or CCs, so that we can feed that into the PFMEA early and not waiting till the end of phase 3.
Yep, agree. Anybody else? No? Okay. Thank you. And thanks for not being shy. A lot of people don't like to talk in front of people. So you guys all did great, and we really appreciate it. And this is what we came up with. And like I said before, you can argue that something belongs or doesn't belong. But, we looked at APQP as number 1. And if you haven't figured it out yet, we truly believe in the tools. We know the tools work. So to really get to zero defects, that's going to be a big enabler. I won't read each one, but there's a couple that get overlooked. One is sub-tier management. We tend to do a lot of oversight of the tier 1, the organization that gets the purchase order from the customer, and we rely on you to manage your sub-tiers. And we would expect with AS 13100 that what we ask of you, you ask of them, right? And you measure their performance. And then root cause. A big thing is really need to push read acrosses. When you have lessons learned, make sure it applies to other part numbers. Use that information to better your business, make your customer happy, and make everyone's life a little better. Sometimes we tend to maybe get a little lazy and we make the pain go away for one commodity or one part number, but do we do read acrosses and use that information to take those lessons learned? Okay? So, party time, right? So, to get to zero defects and to be an industrial leader in your market, you really need to use the tools. Go ahead.
Sorry, on the previous slide, may I just disagree a little bit with you? On zero defect strategy engagement, I think it should be led by the management, because here it comes about the changing the culture. And in my mind, it should be in mindset of everybody, no matter which functional process they belong to. So everybody, if they're developing the process, meaning me, operations, TPM, facility guys, even HR, they should have their mindset about the zero defect strategy. So that is why I propose to have it at leadership responsibility.
I agree. Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you. We appreciate that, and we want to get people thinking, right, and drive that conversation. But it takes an army, it takes the whole organization, but that's a very good point. So now that you're a shining star, this is some of the things you can look forward to, right? Better quality of life, you have a happy customer, happy organization, you use the tools to manage the risk and apply medicine where required. You're taking the lessons learned, and applying them throughout your business. And ultimately, you're going to drive down all the pain points, right? The end goal is to get rid of them. The reality is there may still be some, but the suite of tools self-heals if you use them correctly, right? When something happens, you apply 8D. We watch that video, and you loop it back to the FMEA, the control plan, and what actions you can take, right? And then you do those read acrosses to take those lessons learned. So the end goal is really to make your life better. I know sometimes you think this is all pain, but there is a lot of gain. We told you, we were honest. There's a little bit of work up front. Carl's going to cover some of that tomorrow. But once you do that work up front, it gets easier. And the tools really do work. So thank you for participating. Hopefully you got a lot out of this working session. And we look forward to showing you some more. So I already kind of shared this, but this is what the answers to all the tests, essentially, or what we think the answers are. And like I said, you can argue that something can go in a different bucket. But at the end of the day, if you use the methodologies, the preventative tools, you'll be successful. So, time for another Slido. So, how confident are you in deploying zero defects with your company? If you could take a second to answer that. Well, your camera's out. If you want any selfies, I could do head turns or... Wait another minute. So it looks like competency is hovering around 60%. One thing, and we spend a little time talking about, and you'll learn when you walk around the different SMIG boards, the reference material is really there to help you. So that may help boost your confidence level. For those doubters, and I'm glad you're honest, hopefully with today and tomorrow we win you over and you start to see how the tools work. This is change for all of us too. So as much change as it is for you, we're changing our internal organizations to do the right thing. And it may take a little bit of time, but if we're persistent, we'll be that flying ostrich. So So it looks like we have a coffee break. Any questions? Pete will be happy to answer any questions you have. No? Well, thank you very much. Enjoy your coffee break, and we really appreciate it.